The decision to start a new life overseas is an exciting one, but once you've decided to go abroad, the real question is where. I'm Kristin Wilson, your Go Overseas mentor here at International Living, and I know from experience how hard and stressful it can be to choose a new country to live in. So in today's episode of ILTV, I'll be giving you 8 practical tips to make choosing a destination much easier. The first thing to do is to ask yourself why you want to move abroad. Getting in touch with your personal reasons for moving will help lead you in the right direction. Do you want to move to lower your cost of living, find a new climate or quality of life, or maybe there's a certain country you've always wanted to live in or a language you've always wanted to learn? Write a list of all of the reasons that you want to move overseas and all of the things that you're looking for. And the rest of the tips in this video will help you narrow that list down and ultimately choose the right destination for you. The next thing to do is to ask yourself, where do you want to go? Not necessarily paying attention to what everyone else is doing, but where do you see yourself living? It can be all too easy to get influenced by what people are saying online in Facebook groups and forums and on YouTube. So really focus in on places that have always intrigued you, even if you can't quite explain why. Maybe it seems like everyone is moving to Portugal, but there are some tiny villages over in Albania that really pique your interest. Or maybe you want to go to Mexico and it seems like everyone is living in San Miguel de Allende, but Guadalajara and Monterrey resonate a bit more with you. Would you like to live on a farm in Tuscany or a beach in Thailand? There are no wrong answers, so take some time to think about it. Make a list of all of the places that you can see yourself living, and in the next tips, we'll see which one is the right fit. Once you've narrowed down your list of top places, it's time to find out if you can actually live there. This might be through getting a residency permit or a short-term or long-term visa, or even citizenship by investment or a golden visa. So you want to go to the country's consulate or embassy, Department of Foreign Affairs website or immigration services and find out what options they have and which categories you would qualify for. So you want to keep in mind things like digital nomad and remote work visas. There's usually some sort of a retiree visa or residency permit, a non-lucrative visa, or an investor or business visa. So take a look at those. Consider hiring an immigration attorney if you need help, and then you can know exactly how long you can stay and what the cost and timeline would be for applying for a visa or residency. My fourth tip is to take seasonality into consideration. There might be places that you want to live, just not year-round. I'm personally a fan of Northern Europe, but only in the summer when the days are pretty mild and warm and the sun doesn't set until 10 p.m. or at all. But winter in Northern Europe is not my style. It's long, dark, cold, getting dark around 4 p.m. So there might be places that you want to live half of the year, or maybe you want to spend a few months in a few different destinations throughout the year, or there might be some place that is your home away from home year round. So look at the climate, look at average temperatures throughout the year, consider the different changing seasons, and also the tourism season. Many places have a high season and a low season, or a rainy season and a dry season. You might not want to be in a certain place during hurricane season or typhoon season. So definitely think about these things. And also when it comes to prices, Europe in the summer can be really hot and also crowded and expensive. So maybe you want to live in Europe during the shoulder season, like in the spring or the fall, and then spend winters and summers somewhere else. Before choosing an overseas destination, it's really important to crunch the numbers and see if you can comfortably afford the places that you want to live. There's a lot of great resources online that you can use to look up the average cost of living in your destination. I really like sites like Numbeo, Expatistan, and Nomad List to get a different idea of the cost of living that you can find there. In a lot of places, you will be able to have some control over your cost of living depending on where you live and how long you stay. But keep in mind that there are certain regions that are always going to be more affordable or more expensive than others. So living in Southeast Asia, for example, your money's going to go a lot farther than if you're living in North America or Western Europe. So take your time to look at your monthly income, calculate your desired expenses, and then see which countries on your list are a good fit. Also, keep distance in mind. This is really important if you're going to be working remotely and you need to work with people in different time zones. You might not want to be working in the middle of the night, taking phone calls at 3 a.m., but it's also important when you're thinking about how often you're going to return home to visit friends and family, and also how often you're going to be talking with people back at home. Back when I was a study abroad student in university, I spent a semester in Australia, and it was really hard for me to adapt because I felt like it was very difficult to communicate with friends and family back in Florida. It never seemed like it was the right time, but everyone is different. My best friend who lived there at the same time, she's still there 20 years later with citizenship, her family, a job, the whole thing. So it depends who you are, what you're looking for. But if you're from London and you're moving to New Zealand, it might not be very practical for you to return home every year for the holidays or things like that. And you just might find yourself being in a tough time zone for work or talking to friends and family. So keep the distance and the time zones in mind. That's really going to affect how expensive it is for you to go home for a visit, also how long it takes for you to get there, and on a daily basis, how easy it is for you to communicate. My 7th tip is to be realistic about cultural differences that you might encounter in these new countries. So many countries are similar in certain ways and very different in others. If you're moving from the US or Canada to the UK or Australia, those countries might be quite culturally similar. But if you're moving from, let's say, a liberal city like New York or Amsterdam to somewhere that's much more conservative like Dubai or Saudi Arabia, you might have a tougher time adapting. So it's definitely worth it to do some research on the culture of the country that you're moving to and try to foresee any major differences or challenges that you might have to overcome. Language is another really big one. There are certain places in Mexico, Costa Rica, Panama, especially in touristy or international areas where a lot of people might speak English. But if you move to a small town or village somewhere in Latin America or Asia, chances are no one's going to speak English. So in those cases, it'll be really important for you to learn that new language, whether you're going somewhere in Peru or Bulgaria or Thailand. And so that's something to take into consideration. A tool that I really like to use is called the Hofstede Country Comparison Tool, where you can look at 2 or 3 different countries and compare and contrast them on different cultural dimensions like individualism versus collectivism or power distance. You can also look at things like religion, politics, equality, and human rights. And I also really like Nomad List for this because they'll actually have rankings for all the different countries on things like air quality, LGBTQ rights, happiness indices. And so that's really fun to look at as well. And it can help you plan and have a smoother cultural adjustment once you get there. Of course, people are going to be different Culturally, there'll be different foods, but infrastructure is another one to keep in mind as well. If you're coming from a very developed city or country and then you're moving somewhere like Nosara, Costa Rica, where there's no paved roads and the internet or the electricity or the water can go out on a regular basis, then that's something to keep in mind as well. And last but not least, you want to go there first. Plan an exploratory visit to the country to see what the day-to-day lifestyle is like. So you want to plan this trip from the mindset of going there to live like a local rather than visiting it as a tourist. And I recommend going for at least a couple weeks, but you could stay for up to a couple of months. And this is a really good way to decide between 2 or 3 countries. If you have a couple of finalists and you're having a tough time making that decision, invest a little bit of time and money into visiting all of them from the perspective of living there in the future. And these exploratory visits really help. Once you get there, you might realize that it's a perfect fit, or maybe that it wasn't quite like how you expected from photos and videos and reading about it. But by going there, you can really get a feel for what it's like to live there and if it feels like home to you. And you also might meet some people in the local community or maybe some expats or foreigners that can give you some insights on living there and even maybe give you some tips for other areas of the country that you might not have considered before. I hope these tips help you with choosing a destination. Let me know in the comments below, which countries are you considering for a move overseas?
And there you have it, another episode of ILTV. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. Be sure to hit the subscribe button below, turn on your notifications so you don't miss out on any future videos, and join me for next week's episode.